everyone, and welcome to Writing Easy, the podcast that takes the act of writing, which can sometimes be not easy, and tries to make it less not easy. I'm one of your hosts, Mary Mascari.
And I'm your other host, Melissa Long.
So the year 2020 is coming to an end. Our fond memories of this wonderful, magical year.
So good. It was so good.
Oh my God. But 2021 is coming. And please, dear God in heaven, maybe it'll be better. It looks like it will be, but you never know. But for us individually, you know, whatever's going on in the world, we have control over what's happening in our lives, more or less. And as writers, this is a good time to start kind of thinking about goals for the next year. You know, we always do this every year. We talk about goals. We talk about, plans and how that can be kind of nebulous. But we thought we'd talk about what we're thinking about doing in 2021, or at least the beginning of it. At least my attention span only lasts part of it. And how we're going about picking those things and how we're going about them and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is what we're talking about, correct? Okay,
that's what we're talking about. Yes.
I'm so glad. So what are you planning to do next year? I mean, besides the obvious go out in public when you finally can and see people.
Well, so
I watched a show where they were shaking hands. Sorry.
Did it freak you out?
People were shaking hands. I was like, oh, you can't. Is that? Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't watch any new television right now because that's all I can think of. So I watch stuff that I know was done before, and I still go, ooh, look at all those people. Ooh, you're kissing a stranger. Don't do that.
It's so dangerous.
Such a risk taker.
Okay, I'm sorry. I totally interrupted you. You were going to say something actually relevant, and I blew that. So what's up?
Okay. So, one thing that I like to do, and I'm encouraging people to do this, is that before you start planning your goals for 2021, to like really pause and step back and look at all of the accomplishments you made this year. And this year is it has been so long. It feels like 72 months. Like, it does not feel like 12 months have passed. It's been a lifetime. And it's so easy for us to focus on a good day, to just focus on what is happening in the here and now, what's happened in the last 30 days, that we forget all of the things that we've done. And so whether this year has been, absolutely horrible for you, or it's been okay and you've managed to survive, you've overcome stuff.
There's no option for good.
Right? Or it's good. But you've
good.
survived. There have been like things that you should be grateful for, that you are grateful for. And like, even if you've had devastating losses and tragedies, which I know so many people have, you've taken it day by day and you've gotten to the next day. So like, I think there's real power in stopping to celebrate, or at least reflect on that you've made it this far.
Yeah. That's really wise. That's very wise. Not just for writing, but for life. But yeah, and for writing.
For writing
also,
too.
But to say, okay, what have I done? What did I write? What did I learn from it? Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah. And writing wise, I go back and look at my accomplishments. And this has been a hard thing for me because the last 30 days or so, I've been very focused on, well, I got this rejection letter and I didn't get this, or I haven't heard from this agent. And I've just been letting that sort of fester and grow a little bit more and a little bit more. And that, paired with not being able to see my family over the holidays, makes it like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? This sucks. All of those doubts are just like super susceptible right now to me, like just taking them on and owning them as my story when that's not true. So I have been trying to look at all the things I did, like from January to now. Like, I've had huge changes. I changed careers. I, had my first meetings with agents and managers and took generals and, had great feedback and reviews on my pilot script. So I'm like, I did stuff, and I need to remind myself that I accomplished things in spite of everything that's happened.
That's really important. Yeah, especially, because I know for me personally, my tiny attention span, I can remember, just as you were saying that, I'm like, what did I do this year? Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. That was a long time ago. And to say what did happen as opposed to just what happened this last week, I think that's a really important thing to do. Yeah. And maybe look back on what your goals were and how they changed. Not so much of like, well, I didn't make that, because it's really easy to look at the negative where we have evolved to do that.
Right.
to find what's wrong so that we can fix it, which is great. Uh, but to, yeah, look at what you thought you were going to do, what you ended up doing, and why you made those choices, and yeah, you learn something about yourself for a change. What the heck?
Yeah.
Who knew?
So that's great. That's what I encourage people to do. I use something called like Powersheets, or like, yeah, that's what it's called, Powersheets. And it's, if you're into planning and like organizing your life by planners, then you already know what this is. If you're not, you're like, this is insane, because they're like $40 or $50. But it's a like bound spiral notebook with these fancy questions about setting goals, and it does this whole like section on year in review, and then it has quarterly goals for the next year with like monthly progress and step backs. And so I do think that's helpful for some people, and I use it for writing, because then I have it captured. So now in December, I can go back and I can read through it, and I've already listed those things as they were happening. Whereas like, I don't have to go, I think I did something in April, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Like, I've reflected upon that. And I think it allows me to just set more realistic goals for myself, because I can look back and see like, oh, every February I have this feeling of doom and gloom, or I get frustrated because this thing is happening in the industry, or my sales tank. Like, there is a cyclical pattern to a lot of the things that we experience as writers, and being able to capture that and reflect upon it helps you set more realistic expectations in the future.
That's a really good point. I'm writing that down. Powersheets, huh?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Cool. Yeah, because I goals are always hard for me because I don't have that attention span, and I always forget to do them. But, quarterly might be good. Writing things down, I always like to do that. That's cool. My goals last year were, I think I did pretty well. Like, I was mostly talking about reading a lot. I didn't read anywhere near as much as I had intended. I was like, every day you will read a short story and an essay and a poem.
Yeah.
So somehow, this is so atypical of me, I over demanded of myself. I can't imagine.
What?
I at this point, I'm kind of thinking about what I want to do, like in the next few months, and going from there. And so, what are your thoughts for next year at this point?
Next year, I'm trying to be really flexible. So I do this word of the year every year, and my word of the year is going to be possibilities, because I want to be open to things as they develop, as opposed to planning to death the entire year, because you just don't know what it's going to look like. And I think that I have a couple of projects, like I said that last week's episode, that I'm starting. So I have a feature and I have a biopic that I want to work on, but I also started a YouTube channel this year, so I want to grow that. And I'm doing consulting and freelance work, and so I want to grow that. But I'm trying to be less restrictive on, it's got to be this exact type of job or this exact type of content, and really being open to, being able to say yes to projects that excite me when they come my way, and to trust in my intuition to say no when they don't excite me.
Yeah, that takes a lot of courage sometimes. The no's can be really hard.
They can be really hard, especially when you're like, oh, if I say no, will I have rent? Yeah.
That's, or I was thinking more of like, if I say no, will I ever be asked again? But your rent is important too. We like food, we like shelter. That's good.
Yeah, I'd like to not be homeless in LA, so it's expensive here. So I do have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, even the cardboard boxes are really expensive there. So
right.
They don't. You can't just get the cheap ones there. They just don't have them. So, well, for me, I have to get over this problem I have about submissions, right? So I am got to figure out a way to, because I always hate doing it. I get, I have, part of ADD is rejection sensitive dysphoria, where you pretty much just think everyone hates you. And that can be really easy to get that conclusion when you're submitting work. Yeah. So I have to find a way around that. So that's one of my big things, because I feel like I need to kind of close the circle a little bit more than I've been doing. Because what I've been doing is like, I don't like submitting stuff, so I'll just write something else, and I'll just write something else, and I'll just write something else. Like, well, that's great and all, but it's an art form, and you need to reach people with your art. That's the way it works. So I want to focus on finding ways to close that loop, whether it be partly through querying for traditional publishing, self-publishing some stuff, doing more short story things, which you can attack that way a little bit more. So that's one of my main. I don't know if it's a goal, but main foci, for the year. Things that I would like to improve upon, and I think would be good for me to improve upon. How about that?
Yeah.
Try to say that not in a negative way.
I think I've been struggling with submitting stuff and rejection a lot in the last 2 months.
It's hard.
It's really hard, and I think what becomes even more frustrating is it's so subjective, and you get good feedback from somebody, but they can't take it, and then you get somebody else who's like, it's horrible, and you don't know what to trust. So like everything feels unreal, and of course the things that you remember are always the negative things. Like it's not the positive praise and feedback, and that's exciting in the moment, and you forget it very quickly and start to focus on, but why don't they like it too? So I've been trying to pull away from that, but I think the other thing that I'm exploring next year is creating more content. And actually, like with my YouTube channel, like I want to actually start creating short videos, like just like almost like flash fiction type videos. And I'm super excited about it. I've been enjoying editing in a way that I didn't think I would. So I have a new camera, I have a new iPhone, I've got some of the equipment, and I'm just allowing myself to indulge in that creative pursuit because I'm like, oh, if nobody wants it, then I'll make it.
Yeah.
And there's something empowering about knowing that like I can still get content that I like to an audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. After listening to Kenya a couple weeks ago,
right?
It's just so inspiring. So yeah, that's a big thing is not finding different ways to reach your audience. And there's so many different paths now. You just have to kind of keep working on them. The other thing that I'm going to do is I want to take on kind of an academic project. So I'm calling it gross anatomy. I've said many times that plotting is the hardest thing for me. Understanding the anatomy of the story, understanding, how to put this together, what goes where, what happens when, so I don't go spinning off into the universe. And so I'm going to do, I've always done this, like it's called a recon, where you kind of look at another book and kind of see how they do it, look at several different places, for different specific examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking apart 5 different mystery novels that I like, and I'm taking them apart. Like, here is the story, here's where this clue shows up, here's where this character is, here's this, especially for mystery, because it's hard to kind of notice the structure because you're in it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to systematically take apart 5 different books, and the idea is not to see specific examples, but to understand in a little more academic way structure, just to really get to know it, to see it differently, to kind of get it in my bones, so that when I go to write, I'm a little less afraid of the structure part, a little less loose with the structure part, because 99% of the time that's what is hard for me for writing, is figuring out what happens next, what to do. Like I don't know why. Like you'd think like that's what writers do, but it's so hard for me. So I want to. I'm taking kind of an academic approach. I'm thinking it like a med student has gross anatomy, right? They have to dissect a cadaver and look at it and get in there and see it all before they start to practice.
Yeah.
They work with. So I'm dissecting 5 different novels, and I'm taking them apart, laying them on the slab, and it's getting gross now, so I'm going to stop.
I mean, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you're doing an autopsy. Like you're going through and pulling all the things apart and seeing how things work. And then, I enjoy that. And I always say I'm going to do it, and I never really fully do it. Or I do one and then I just like get distracted and I don't go back and do the others that I listed out that I wanted to do. So that's cool. I want to hear your progress.
Yeah, I've already a couple times had to kind of refocus myself, because when I learn one thing, I'm like, got it, and then I want to go use it. Like, we're doing a bunch of these, and let's get that together. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I think it will be fun. Because I got to figure this stuff out. It's driving me crazy.
Structure is challenging, right? And I think it's like, I find it overwhelming because every time I think I figured something out, then I watch or read something that completely doesn't use the structure, but that everybody loves. And then I'm like, oh, well, like now I have to do that thing.
Yeah, which of course that's not the case at all, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like music. You have to know your scales. You have to know the rules, and then you can break them.
Yep.
You don't sit down and start playing jazz. You have to understand the music theory and the notes and the chord progressions and the all that stuff, and then you can sit and just go. Yeah, obviously not something I've done, but I feel like that's kind of what I want to do. I'm studying my scales. I'm studying the music theory of the book, so that when I sit down to write and I am playing jazz, because that's really what ends up happening. I know that I am playing within a structure and that I'm making something that makes sense.
I like it. I hope you take really good notes, because then you can like publish them in a little PDF, like case studies, and people can read it and learn from your awesomeness.
That would be cool. Or I write a book. That would be the other way.
Yes.
Or both, even. So anything else we need to, you want to share about your goals, your aspirations, your...
My goals and my
deepest dreams? I don't know.
My hopes. All of it. I'm feeling really optimistic, surprisingly, about 2021. And I know that like on New Year's Eve, this world as we know it is not going to completely change, and everything's not going to be wiped away, and the virus is not going to go away, or the pandemic is not going to go away right away. But I'm feeling really optimistic about 2021, and I just believe that it's going to be this fresh start for so many people. Like, so many people are in this place of rebuilding, and so many people have been pushed to like really do deep work on themselves like, because we've been stuck inside for so long. Like, we've been pushed to face like so many of our deeper fears. And I think we're coming out stronger, and there's just so much, I don't know, hope and potential and possibility.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I feel the same way. Of just like, yeah, that sucked, and it still sucks, but I'm starting to see that there's a way to get through it.
Yeah.
So, well, on that optimistic note, I think we should just wrap up by saying that writing is hard.
So take it easy.
I'm Mary.
And I'm Melissa.
See you guys next time.
Bye.